Hey, and welcome back to another Learning Java 2D Game Programming video. So in our last video, we implemented some move costs for our different tiles. Also, we have different costs for if it's a base tile or if it's an edge tile. So this way, our NPCs are choosing to walk in the middle of our roads more and not so much on the grass, which is nice, which is what we wanted. So we also implemented this pause menu so that we can get in and out of this game state as well. So all of this is working out quite well. Today I was thinking that we could possibly look at some resizing of our window. So we got a request in the comment section on YouTube for resizing our window, and I thought that sure, that seems like a small enough thing that could bring a lot of value, so let's do that. But first, I want to refactor some stuff with our UI containers. So you know how whenever we create a container, we need to send in a size, and only the top level containers really use that size. And I never really liked how that worked, and I've been wanting to redo that for a long time. It's just that there's so many other things to do, and we can't just be stuck at the UI containers forever. And it's been working for us, even though it's not the best solution, so I've just let it be. But now it feels like a perfect opportunity to refactor that, now that we're gonna resize stuff, and it's gonna make that easier for us. So we're gonna do that first. We are going to redo how our UI containers work inside of our state. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a new type of container, and I'm going to call that an alignable container. So instead of having a list of containers at the top of the state, we're just going to have one container, and it's going to be an alignable container. So it's the children are going to be able to align themselves like they have been doing already, but inside of this container. So this is a UI container. We need to implement these methods. So in order for us to be able to align inside of here, we need to know its size. So that's really important. So this is going to know the window size. But since this one does, no other container does. So we're going to make a constructor which takes in the size, but I'm going to call it a fixed size instead, because now we're opening up to use this container within other containers. So as long as it has a fixed size, it's going to be happy. And I'm going to say this dot fixed size is equal to fixed size. So now this is complaining that there's no default constructor available in UI container. So let's head over to the UI container. Let's remove everything regarding window size. There's no more window size. Bye. So what do we replace this with? When we calculate the position, when we calculate position for the alignments, well, we use the parent. Parent get size. Let's just copy this and replace the window size in here with that. Also, I noticed when I was here that there's been a bug here and we've never even noticed. So this shouldn't say padding get left and padding get top when we get the position. It should say margin. We probably didn't notice because most often we are using the same values for the margin and the padding. So the default value is 5 on both, and when I don't want something, I usually take away both of them. So I set both of them to 0. So that's probably why I never noticed that, but it should be margin here. All right, now we're not going to need this anymore. So good, that's the UI container. Let's just fix this up. It's going to return the fixed size when you ask for the calculate content size. And for calculate content position, we're going to do children for each child set absolute position to a new position. And for the X, we're going to start with using the absolute position of ourselves, this container. So if it's the top level one in the state, it's going to be 0, but it might be somewhere else. So we need to use its absolute position. And then we're going to add the child, get relative position, get X. So let's do the same for the Y. There we go. And that's it for now. I am going to head over to the state and now replace this list of UI containers with an alignable container that I'm going to call a UI canvas, just to be sure that this is where we put all of our UI elements. So in this UI canvas, let's just create new alignable container. Now this needs the window size, so that's good. Instead of updating everything here from the list, we're just going to say UI canvas, update this. Down here, we're going to change this getter. I'm actually going to just remove that and then alt insert regenerate the getter for the UI canvas. And that was it for this state. Now let's go into all of these states, and now in here, we are going to keep the window size for the state, but instead of adding to UI containers, we're going to use UI canvas dot add UI component. So that's what we're using there and here. And then for the UI containers clear, we have the UI canvas clear, but it's currently protected, so we need to make it public. So alt enter and make it public. So this should be fine for this. Gonna go out of there. I'm gonna go into both of these UI places. So we should never need the window size now, right? And we need to change that inside of the vertical container. And so let's do that first. All right, let's head over to the vertical container. And in here, I'm just gonna start by removing this and then put the cursor on the parameter, go to refactor, change signature, and with the parameter that you want removed selected, press minus and refactor. And it says it has usage that's not safe to delete. Now you can just delete this. But the reason why we did that was because we wanted to get rid of this refactor helped us that wherever we create this vertical container, it removed the window size from the constructor call for us. So that was nice. So let's do that with the horizontal container as well. So refactor, change signature, minus refactor. All right, fine. And then just remove this because we don't need an empty constructor. All right, crossing out of there. Now this was happy. Now we just need to remove window size. And let's see, the UI main menu, just remove that window size. We don't need it. And what should we put here then, where we're using window size before? Well, we could get that size from, I guess we could get it from the state. So the state has the get window size, maybe? So the state should have the window size. Let's just make a getter for it. So inside of the state, make a getter for window size. That way we can use it here when we hop to a new state. So this will also do state get window size. The UI option menu, however, does not want a window size anymore. So now this UI main menu should be fine. Let's just check them. UI main menu, UI option menu, menu state is sad because we don't need that anymore. All right, so the menu is all good. Let's go to the game. So here's the game state. There's a lot of imports that I can remove. So down here we have the UI containers add, and instead UI canvas dot add UI component. And here we can say UI canvas, and it has an equivalent called has component because it's a container. And here add UI component, and it also has remove component. So we could handle all of those cases. So that was nice. Here we're not going to send in the window size on line 58 and 59, so we don't need to take that into initialize UI. We don't need that there. So let's go into these and take it away. So we were already not using it in the sickness statistics. Go into the game time, and we weren't using it in here. And we are using it in here, but we're not gonna. So here we're entering the menu states. Let's do states, get window size instead. So that should be all for the game states. I'm just gonna close all because we're opening up a lot of stuff. And then for the editor state, we are almost done here. I'm gonna do paste in this for all the ads. Setup UI isn't gonna need the window size anymore. So none of these want the window size. We only pass the window size if we are making a state. All right, so a lot of these things are sad now, but we're gonna fix them as we go through these. So this is not gonna take in the window size, no window size there. I think that was it. Scenery menu, no window size. Good. Render settings, no window size. Button menu, no window size, and we don't need that call to super. All right, so these are still sad because there are some UI components that still take the window size. So we're gonna have to look through that also, remove it from the setup UI. So namely the UI tab container seems to be using it. Let's find that. And just remove that out of there. We don't need this call to super. All right, so that looks fine. I'm just gonna try hitting play, and when it tries to compile, it should find the discrepancies for us. So I just removed that. And here we are in the renderer. So currently we used get UI containers, and then we drew each sprite. So you would think now that we only draw the sprite for the UI canvas that we have, but we're not going to do that, and there's a reason for that. It's actually because of performance. So if we try to generate the UI containers, well, entire sprite, that means we're making an image as large as the entire board, and then we draw pixel by pixel, and it's just gonna give us sort of, it's gonna hurt our performance. So we're using the UI canvas to help us align and position its children, but we're instead gonna say get UI canvas, and we're gonna get the children out of there and still draw each and every one of them from the outside. So I'm gonna say get components, since we've been using the word components, and it's a little sad that I'm using the word, sorry, list of UI components. So in here they're called children, and I'm not sure if we're gonna keep that name or if we're gonna rename it, but let's do one thing at a time. So back to here. Now we're getting the canvas, we're getting the components out of the canvas, and then we're drawing each of them. So it's gonna work sort of just like before, but we're wrapping that list. So let's hit play again, see what happens. All right, we're getting a little further. So, right, now it said that this calculate size, calculated content size, it's not happy with all of these things. So we're gonna remove the calculate size and calculate position from the constructor. And then let's try that again. All right, so seemingly it's working the same. This is looking fine. All right, so everything seems to still work, but now we only have to change the size in one place. Well, in two places. We also have to change it in the camera. Now we can actually get to the resizing part. So let's get to that. I'm gonna pop over to my display. So here we have all of the things. We are setting everything up, and I'm gonna rename this now. When we're finally inside of this class, I'm gonna say ISO bubbler instead of my new game something something. All right, so what is it that we need to do? This JFrame, it can listen to its resize. So first of all, we set the resizable false. So let's just check what happens if we remove that. Now we can resize our window, but we're never resizing our game. So the game is still up here. We can see some things that we didn't see before, but that's because we have some safety space when we're rendering. So we are rendering a little bit outside of our view bounds. What we need to do when we resize our window is we need to listen to that resize, and then we need to take the new size and we need to set that size in our camera and in our UI canvas. So how are we going to do that? So from inside of the display, we don't have access to the state, we don't have access to the game object, we don't have access to any of that. And that's sort of how I want to keep it. So what we're going to do instead, I'm going to head over to the game. I'm going to create a new functional interface. So a Java class is going to be an interface. I'm going to call this Resize callback. So what this is going to have is it's going to have a void method called resize, which takes a size. And you're going to see how this works. So from the game class here, where we create the display, let's give it a resize callback so that it can call this callback. And I'm going to create that down here. I'm going to say a public void resize, which takes a size. I'm going to take the state that we have and say resize with this size. So we're going to create that inside of the state. Now we have our resize method in the state. So what will this do? This is going to take the camera. Let's create something called resize in there and give that the size. And then UI canvas. Here we could do set fixed size, but it just looks better if we keep this resize methods going, so we can see that these all belong to each other. But we could have used just set size here for the UI canvas. All right, so let's just create those inside a camera, resize. But what this will do is it'll set window size to this new size. Done in here. In the UI canvas, let's alt enter create method resize. We can put it in the alignable container. So this will just set the fixed size to this new size. And let's go out of there. So that is done inside of the state. Now let's pass that, and we can pass it as a method reference. So this dot resize, or so I thought, expected 3 arguments but found 4. So we didn't change it inside of the display. We also need to take that in. So resize callback. So now if we just go back here, you can see that this works because this method, it fulfills the interface need. So it needs to have a method called resize, which takes a size. That's exactly what this method does. So it fills all of that need. So now we can call this from in here with whatever size we have. So we need to add a listener to our JFrame on when we resize our window. So let's do that. Let's add component listener, and I'm going to say new component adapter, and then you can choose which of these things should we listen to. I'm going to listen to resized. All right. So what do we want to do when we resize? Well, there are some things to look out for. So when you resize, then it sort of adds on the size of its border. So, you know, at the top here where you have these icons and everything, and it sort of offsets our canvas by that. We have this component event E, and this will contain a lot of information, such as our new size. So let's do set preferred size. I'm going to say E get component get size. So we are setting the preferred size of this display to this size that we have. And then we're using pack. Now, let's call this resize callback with a new size. So instead of using the size here, because we don't want the size of the entire window, we want the size of the window minus the size of the border that it adds. This is important, but that's why we have resized our window and packed it. So now we can instead say get content pane. So we're getting the content pane of our JFrame. So that's going to give us the right size. It's going to be minus that border. So get content pane, get width, and get content pane, get height. Now let's also just set the canvas preferred size to the content pane, get preferred size. Now this should be able to resize our game and also won't look weird. So won't be offset by that border. And now it gave us an error. It said that state was null, and that's because we are initializing the display before the state, and I don't think we need to, so we can just change the order of those two and then press play, and then it was much happier. All right, so now if I press maximize, here you can see it maximized. We can see more of our game, and see here it did not go to the editor. So let's find out why that happened. And I'm gonna do that if we go to the menu state, and I'm gonna go to the UI main menu, and when we press the editor, we do state get window size. So is state get window size not updated? Right. Okay. So let's find state, and when we do resize, we need to set our window size to this size as well. So that's what was missing. So the window size was still the old size. So, oh, sorry, wrong thing. Let's go here, let's press editor, much better. All right, so this is working out. Awesome. Now, you can't really, if you start pulling here, it's gonna flicker. And I haven't found a way to make it very dynamic. So it's not really supposed to be. As I said, we're using the swing package. We're not using the graphics card. There are some things that you can do, such as if we go to the display, you can set in here toolkit, which is this static API that you can use, get default toolkit, set dynamic layout to false. Then you can say stop trying even to update yourself while we are resizing or doing stuff here. So now the image stays the same, and where it didn't have an image before, it's just going to look weird like that. And as soon as you let go, it's going to repaint and do its thing again. So that's one thing that you could do, but I'm just going to keep it like this. And now what if you want it to be full screen and you don't want this bar at all? Well, you could fix that. So you could say set, let's see, decor, set undecorated, and then say true. So if you just try this first, you'll see here that the border, it disappeared. Unfortunately, this also means that you now cannot resize your window using your mouse. We can still do it programmatically if we want. So say that you're not even gonna have a windowed mode, you want it to be full screen, undecorated, all of that. Then we could just say, let's go down here somewhere. Before we do set location relative to null, let's just do set size, and we can use the toolkit, get default toolkit, and get screen size. So this default toolkit will find the screen that you're running on. So let's press play. And now you can see it is entirely full screen. I don't even have a border. So now if I want to exit out of this game, I'm gonna have to use the menu. Also, do note that your frames per second is going to be lower if you have the full screen. All right, that's it. Now you know how to resize your game. Also, we are using our UI containers in a better way. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Hej då!